Hello, my name is Kiriath, and today we are going to talk about what makes a really good Special Edition miniature, as opposed to yet another Primaris Lieutenant. So we have kind of talked about this once before. We've talked about the fact that there are Special Edition miniatures that Games Workshop does that aren't all that special. They're certainly miniatures, they exist, but they're not thrilling, they're not exciting, they're not new, they're not anything different from what you would otherwise see. The most recent example being, of course, the Blade Guard Lieutenant, which looks like you could simply make him from, well, the Blade Guard kit and nothing else. Like, you don't need to go anywhere special to get exactly that miniature. Pretty much it's just a variation of every other miniature that's similar to it, all kind of crammed into one extremely bland package. And that's bad, especially when you compare it to the Vampire Lord that was revealed alongside that miniature. But there's one that actually does a really good job of illustrating the point of something still being similar to what is currently available, whilst being completely different, that we need to take a look at, because it's the Red Gobbo. The Red Gobbo is back. And the thing is, we've already had a Red Gobbo once before, so you could think to yourself, well, how can this be a decent Special Edition miniature if it's something that we've already had once before anyway? Well, it's because it doesn't look anything like the previous incarnation and is very much its own thing. This is the new Red Gobbo. This is going to be available this Christmas, and you know what? He looks very much like the old Red Gobbo that we had. Sorry, I should be saying the Red Gobbo, shouldn't I? No, the. You can't be saying the when it's in reference to the Gobbo. I just did it again. I'm not even going to bother trying. It's not going to go well any time that I do, is it? So this is the Red Gobbo. We've seen the Red Gobbo before. The Red Gobbo. God damn it. This is the old one, right? This is what was available in 2019. And it's still a great model. It's still a great miniature. It looks fantastic. There's loads of detail, tons of character. It is, of course, entirely appropriate for the festive season. And we are getting him again. Except this time round, we're getting him on a squig. But the thing is, it's not just the fact that he's on a squig. It's the fact that even though this is the same character, and even though a Gobbo is a Gobbo when you get right down to it, this has infinitely more character than any of the Primaris Lieutenants that we've seen thus far. And the reason for that is, I think, fairly clear. He's actually allowed to have character. He's actually allowed to be a bit wacky, a bit over the top, a bit silly. I mean, it's the Red Gobbo, of course that's what he's supposed to be. But the thing is, we've already had him. We've already had a model for this character before. And you could argue that, is the new one all that special given that it's the same character? It is, because it's totally different, and therein lies the whole problem I have with the Special Edition stuff that Games Workshop does for Space Marines and for Primaris particularly. Because while this is a new version of something that we've already got, it is unique in silhouette. It looks totally different in silhouette from the old Red Gobbo. It looks totally different in presentation to the old Red Gobbo. The fact that the Gobbo is riding a squig as opposed to being stood by himself makes a massive difference. The addition of the squig also adds a ton of character. It doesn't take anything away from the existing character of the Red Gobbo. Instead, it actually gives us more because, well, squigs are just little bundles of character on two legs with massive teeth. That's one of the best things about them. They are an undeniably goofy and ridiculous side of both 40k and Age of Sigmar and just Warhammer as a whole. But that gives them a load of character, that makes them interesting, and that kind of gives scope for making things look very, very different in terms of how they're perceived, even if the characters are functionally exactly the same. I mean, you can get away with a lot of repeated detail if there is a ton of extra detail tacked onto that, especially in the form of something as iconic as a squig. Not just a squig, but a squig with antlers, because that's amazing. Frankly, I love the fact he's got antlers. The character is not actually that different. You've still got the hat, you've still got the goggles. The gun is different, admittedly. Got a different sidearm there, tucked into the red coat. And the beard is pretty much the same as well. The beard that is, of course, attached via elastic, because they don't have facial hair. Still a nice touch, I still like it. But you can't tell me that this looks boringly the same, or that this looks identical to the previous version, or that you couldn't tell which version is which at a glance if they're next to each other. It's not like you could see this and go, oh, that must be the 2019 one. No, because you know full well that one of them is completely different in terms of how they are presented to the other one. But you can't say that for the Primaris stuff. You can't say that for Special Edition Lieutenants. You can't say that when every version of those has to be exactly the same. Now, of course, they have to be the same because they have to fulfill a functional role on the tabletop, and they need to be, like, coherent. They need to adhere to rules that have already been set aside for that specific type of model. There is a lot more freedom that you can go with when it comes to daft stuff like this, but then again, when it comes to special edition stuff, surely it should be the spectacle that makes it. Like, that's what I love about this. That's what I really enjoy about this kind of model when Games Workshop comes out with this stuff that is limited, but is, like, based around a particular season. I mean, the fact that this is only a Christmas thing works really well, and the fact that it's got so much character and they're kind of allowed to go a bit wild with it and make something that is not serious, something that is not necessarily, like, supposed to be used on the tabletop every single time you have a game. I kind of like the fact that they can do something different, because it is different. It is something that stands out. And if you're going to do something that's a special edition thing, surely standing out should be the goal. It needs to be special. It needs to be interesting. It needs to be something that you don't see every single day. And that's exactly what this version of the Red Gobbo is. It's something different that you don't see every single day. That's part of the appeal, I would have thought. Maybe that's the issue, though. Maybe that's why a lot of the, like, special edition stuff that is Space Marine based, I have such an issue with. It's because it has to, by virtue of, like, the function that it has to be not that interesting. It has to be not that exceptional in terms of appearance. It has to fulfill a certain criteria, and so the onus isn't on making something that is fresh and new and different and, you know, really stands out, but making something that is just limited in number but kind of the same as everything else. Of course, as I said, we have already discussed this in terms of, like, what makes a special edition miniature not that special when we saw the Blade Guard Lieutenant and the Vampire Lord next to each other. But this just kind of even more hammers home my issue with that kind of special edition thing that simply doesn't feel all that special. It kind of feels, I don't know, like, just creatively not interesting. Like, it's not actually anything to be coveted or sought after. Like, if it was something that was super interesting and different, I would feel a lot more compulsion to get it. I mean, that's just me, though. I mean, the fact is that, honestly, whilst it really bugs me that a lot of the primary stuff that we see that is special edition is just, hey, it's exactly the same as all of the others, the fact is, if people didn't buy it, they wouldn't do it. And there are people who are going out of their way to collect every single version of them, which is absolutely fine. You can do that if you want. But for me, there's got to be something that stands out about it, something that makes me look at it and think that it's different to everything else. Even if it functionally isn't, even if it is just something that you would put down the tabletop and play as normal, it kind of at least feels to me like it needs to have something extra, something to mark it out, something that really hammers home that it is special. And this version of the Red Gobbo, that ticks all the criteria. It really does. This is something that I would actually get. This is something that I'm interested in, because it's not just some gobbo on a, like, it's not a plain gobbo on a plain squig like you would see in like the Gloomspite Gitz army. It's not like identical to something that already exists. It's something different and unique, and that's what makes it special. And I'd love it if we could see more of that for, I mean, I guess for 40k stuff as a whole, but I would also argue just for Space Marines. If you're going to keep making them, if you're going to keep piling them out, if you're going to keep doing special edition miniatures that are all Primaris Lieutenants, at least make them fancy, at least make them different, at least make them stand out in a meaningful way. It'd just be nice to see, you know? Anyway, what do you reckon about the new Red Gobbo on Christmas Squig? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you've also been getting a little bit tired of the whole Primaris Lieutenant Special Edition thing, then I'm assuming you'll also let me know in the comments down below. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. Feel free to click all the things, Patreon, video, subscribe, all that stuff. Click it if you like, don't click if you don't want to. And as always, there's an affiliate link in the description for Element Games, which you can use to support the channel if you would like. I leave it in your capable hands. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.